Hi, guys. My name is Marguerite Ensko, and I'm with my mom, Nancy, and I just put on glasses, so if you were confused about, like, that's not the same lady. Yeah. I know, they're cute, aren't they? Okay, so we're going to trade off here back and forth a little bit, but we're super excited about being able to share with you today, and we're going to try to keep this at about 30 minutes so we can have some Q&A time at the end, all right? Now, if you've never heard of Bible Transmission, we've got our mission statement up here. And it's changed slightly in the last 6 months due to the vision that my mom has received and acted upon. So our goal is to get gospel content on mobile devices, nothing new here in this room, conceptually. And we've been so far promoting the offline distribution format, but recently we're working now on international advertising directly to mobile phones. So I thought what I would do, though, just for those of you that haven't seen a lot of the process for offline distribution, is to show you a video. Now, okay, we're going to switch to it. This does not, this is the way you would do it before that dongle that was just introduced a second ago, right? But assuming that doesn't exist, right? So this just gives you an idea of what is still happening. And if you've never seen this in action, it's a nice way to see. Has anybody ever seen that, mobile-to-mobile transfer with an SD card? Like if someone gave you a phone, you could do it? No? Everybody? I'm getting nothing here. You have? Okay. Oh, we don't have the fancy music. It's got like this little, not a requirement. So we created these videos when we went down to a conference in Cali, Colombia, so that people could see it in action, but it also could be added to your phone. So you can see the idea here is that the Bible gets passed around from person to person organically. That's the idea. That you can see why in the Western world, none of us have figured that out. We've had our phones, right? And this is like a complete mystery to us. And it does take a little bit of education, and it's been our goal up to this point when we've distributed SD cards with audio Bibles to also provide instruction to those individuals and demonstrate that. And I think it's working okay, but not as well as we would like for it to. It's still kind of a complex system. And this new way of getting the Bible directly to mobiles is something that Mom is very excited about, so I'm going to let her share that with you, and then I'm going to come up and tell you how we actually do it.
Hey, you do this, if you don't mind. Okay. I'm not accustomed to public speaking. Is the mic on? I have been doing offline distribution from time to time on 3 different continents. Thank you. With my husband and without him. So I thought that the way to really make this move in the Lord to the ends of the earth was to interest many people in many organizations. I was stymied in some ways because so many people are so busy in the mission world, and limited in some ways, just so many of them, not too many, that this became an answer to me to how I can more effectively get the gospel to the ends of the earth in this day, and I'm so excited to share it with you all. We are going to move gospel directly to mobiles for pennies in the developing nations. Everyone has mobile reach now. Today we can reach millions of people instantly who may never see a mission outpost, a church, or another Christian. Vast numbers of people in developing regions are accessing the internet for short periods of time on their mobile calling cards. Some international mobile agencies, ad agencies, are now taking advantage of this, these new mobile users, and we want to take advantage of them too. With a mobile ad agency, we can place a banner ad for pennies a click that says Bible stories or gospel content or whatever you wish in developing nations that will see our ad on their mobiles. Do you have Christian materials? Obviously you do. Between that and technology. You can now publish to the ends of the earth. Visitors can click on your ads pages where they may listen to and download gospel content. Our only suggestion is you keep the file small and remembering that their internet is slow and may be expensive for them. We started by taking the gospel media of French to the city in Benin, Africa, as a test. After the landing page was created, we began to pay $5 a day for advertising, a non-static banner ad being placed with a mobile ad agency named Buzz City. Their reach was about 200 nations with about 50 billion impressions per month. So this is not a fly-by-night. This is a carefully selected mobile ad agency that we wish specifically to let you know that this kind of ad agency is what you need to be looking for. We got over 600 bona fide non-bounced clicks from the port city of Cotonou. That's about 10 cents a visit. We were thrilled. The average time, according to the Google stats, was about 3.5 minutes, and about 23% returned to get more content on their own later. Here's another example. We ran an ad campaign in Sudan, Africa. That's not South Sudan, but the north where there's a lot of civil unrest. We use standard Arabic at $5 a day. We verified about 70 visitors each day, according to the stats that we had at hand. Marguerite can go more into the analytic parts of it. I just like to open up my computer each morning and go to the countries that we now have banner ads in 5 countries, and we've currently running. In fact, Marguerite was adding a few more dollars per ad campaign last night remotely from here to keep these going. It's like untying Christmas packages to see how many people in this country downloaded or what they received and how effective each campaign is going each day, and counting the thousands each week that are receiving content from our few $100s, about $300 is what we're having right now for 5 nations. Very, very exciting. But I'll finish this up, that our basic expense was the initial landing page. If you're tech savvy or can have friends, you can do it in-house. Otherwise, once you get that landing page, then you're good to go for cheap advertising via this particular ad agency. Next. There are about 70 languages that the world speaks, so we don't have to go to the very indigenous languages. And here's what we've discovered. I've discovered in Cali, Colombia, when I was there with Marguerite, and we downloaded with her husband about 550 audio New Testaments or whatever at hand, that even though we had people from 10 or 20 nations at the COICOM Religious Broadcasters, Spanish Broadcasters Convention, only about 10% wanted indigenous languages. So we went prepared, and all they wanted was Spanish. Again, we were in Pueblo, Mexico, and there the Popoluca people spoke several dialects, and they wanted it. And I was so excited that the pastors wanted it from a couple of hundred churches, and we had micro SD cards in which to, I'll let them do the file transfers. We didn't have that much time. They said, we want it because of nostalgia. We really speak Spanish. We're not interested. This was, again, another ding-dong to us that major languages are now working with remote people groups. And a third example that we had was even in this Benin advertisement arena, we offered Hausa and several other very specific gospel content in that region, and 90-some%, maybe 92%, all preferred French in Benin, Africa. Now, I realized they were holding the mobiles, and that was their language, and they were comfortable. They had the screens they could navigate. But these people are unreached, and we're so excited to reach them, particularly in places like Sudan, where we wouldn't be safe to go. And that seems to be our understanding, that the more stressed, or maybe the less developed regions, may be the cheaper advertising, and the more hungry people get the most. We get the most bang for our buck in investment. That's still under consideration. We're not reaching the West. We're not reaching the industrialized nations. They are very expensive, and they don't respond as well for our dollars. You might say, well, why don't we use the sandals on the ground? And we've been sandals on the ground. In fact, my husband and I were in India back in 2010 and realized seeing a man in a rice field holding a mobile while he is picking rice made such an impression on my husband that that's when he began to explore the opportunity of mobile evangelism. But nevertheless, I've done some statistical research, and it looks like that when we're transferring data content to mobile devices, we can do maybe 5 or 6 an hour by the time you say hi, hello, get their phone, check it out, locate their cards, and do the transfer and put it back. And so it needs to be done, but that it is a painstaking process. We do depend on each one handing it to others in a community, all receiving the gospel. But in today's age, when there's an explosion of mobile devices, 1 billion being sold a year and hundreds of millions being sold into the remote regions in the past 2 years, at that type of international sales, you can, just bet that the internet is moving in behind and is becoming accessible as people in those regions take their pennies and will go without lunch just to go to an internet cafe or to be online for a few seconds. And these people are unreached. They're largely 25 and under, and we're looking, at an extra billion coming online, as it were, in these last couple of years. The Joshua Project has told us that that 60% of the world is not significantly reached. In fact, 42% of the world is not reached at all. Only 40% of the world has been significantly reached in Christ according to their criteria. And most of that has been that most of the missionaries go to the easier places, and the harder places where the greatest need is, it's difficult for them to either get there or it's not a safe place. There are only about 400,000 missionaries, according to this, and I'll have to read this Global Community Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary estimates. Their statistic, 400,000 missionaries that are foreign missionaries. 34,000 come to America. If you just divide that out, that's one missionary, international missionary, per 20,000 people at a 7 billion on the planet. And this is not operational. So even if we had 10 times more missionaries, we would have still only reached one missionary per 2,000 people, globally speaking. That's why at this age, seeing the secularization, the globalization that's reaching to the ends of the earth before the Christian message can, makes it imperative that we think new strategies. And I think this is the strategy. For instance, now, for 4 cents a click, and I think that's very doable in developing regions where there's a larger advertising budget to be spent, that you could reach 1 million people with $40,000. That'd be 1 million people downloading gospel content. On that landing page, of course, you would have additional links for other content, whether it's worship music or teaching or whatever in those languages. Additionally, along that line, if you had $40 million at 4 cents a click, that's 1 billion people could be reached. You see, we're talking now, and all of these people across the earth are reachable now from right here where we are with the click on a computer. We need to start thinking very big and operating these strategies if this is your calling. There's still small pockets of people that haven't been reached at all, and they need to be reached. That's part of, but as of this year, we have another strategy to do mobile advertising online to the remote. Technologists, gospel contenters come together and can push out this gospel now beyond offline distribution and other means. They can do it online and be extremely effective. We've got to get away from this idea that we have to always have follow-up. I think all of us belong to churches and we have pastors, but we don't understand evangelists. My husband was an evangelist. He led hundreds and hundreds to the Lord personally in many countries. If we go to a bookstore, if we listen on the radio, if we even go on the internet and we gather gospel content, there's no follow-up to see if we were really Christians or if we understood it. Why should it be any different if we're going to push the gospel onto an advertising non-static banner ad to the ends of the earth? It is the same as opening up a bookstore in a community that would never see one otherwise. So Marguerite is going to, did we, let's go to the think big, the last slide. So let's think big, let's think billions, let's think doable, let's think it's going to take all of us. But the technology is here, and it will allow us all to reach the ends of the earth in a mighty way, in a mighty flood. This gospel shall be preached. Amen.
Oh, yeah, I get to do the easy stuff, tell you how we're doing it. I think Mom had the hard part. Okay, so how we do it, and I say right now because we're still really learning. You know, we've only been doing it about 6 months. Yeah, You know, when we've had some successes, we've had things that don't work, and that's the way this process is. So we're just trying to tell you where we are and what we've learned. And the goal is so that you can find the right people and to continue doing this. It's not very hard. It's just about as difficult as that SD card transfer if you have the right people in place. So you can see there's basically 6 steps. We have to prepare the content, and there's been already a lot of discussion about that. Get a landing page designed. I'll tell you what to look for. You have to have your advertisement established, right, that's going to go out on the devices. You want to know a little bit about your users and what their phones are so you can make some strategic decisions with your campaign. You want to test some stuff out to make sure that what you're doing is really working, and then you can put in some long-term campaigns where you're doing ongoing advertisement. Okay, so preparing gospel content. I know it went a little dark, maybe. I don't know if that was me or not. Gospel content needs to be prepared 2 ways. You have to think about who it is that you're sending it to, and I think most of us are aware of that. But, you know, the people, the language that they speak, what they're interested in. So we're talking about context. And then you also have to think about how they're receiving it through their phones. And we've also discussed that a lot, too, about the size of the files, the file type being compatible. What we've done is made sure our audio files were mono and not stereo so that they were small. We also made sure that we broke it down by chapter instead of delivering a whole book so that people could, even if they only had just a minute or 2, could download something and have it there for their reference instead of cutting off something midstream that was too large. Then the landing page. So a landing page, by definition, is a website page. It's an independent freestanding page that you send traffic to. And the way that you get traffic there or visitors there through many different streams. It depends on what your strategy is. Clearly ours is for a mobile ad. So we know that the only people visiting this page are the people that have clicked on the ad. That's it. It doesn't exist elsewhere. We're not making it search engine friendly or anything like that. Now, the second element with a landing page is you want to make it very focused so that people will accomplish exactly what it is that they want to do there. So we've got here on the left an example of Word Project, and they have an excellent mobile-friendly website. You can see that here. It's very clear. The app to download, some information, and down below here. Has this got a pointer on it? Yeah. Oh, I don't know what. I blacked it out. Oh, thank you. So these are books of the Bible, and you click on that, and you can get the chapters. Now, if this is your first time experiencing a Bible, it's probably a little confusing. Like, where do you even begin? And you have to go through a couple clicks to get somewhere. People will end up deciding to do nothing instead of something when there's too many choices. And statistics have proven this over and over again. So what we've done is we've made it very simple. We've just taken the book of Mark, and we selected that because we felt it was the most complete in gospel and the most easy to understand without extra information that isn't relevant to someone who's never read the Word of God. And up here are instructions that make it really clear that we want them to download this information, and they just click this button here or this button, and it will either stream or download depending on the functionality of their phone. Now, we made this all pure HTML. There's no extra code anywhere, no PHP, which was something that we did with the Benin site, and we look back, and it wasn't a bad mistake, but it was just, that's not going to be as user-friendly. We use like a WordPress landing page, because that's just the mentality here in the West, right? That's just what we built everything on. So it was the wrong platform, so we've changed it here. And, of course, we made it look kind of nice, too. And I think that's about it. Any other technology points? So we make one, yeah, that's only one. This is a template. And we just repeated it, you know, copy and paste, put a different language in there, copy and paste, put another language. I mean, after a while, it only took us like a few minutes to create a new landing page because we had the template in place. Then you want to create your marketing creative. I'm using all these sophisticated terms, I guess. But what it means is your ads that you're going to be promoting on the mobile device. Now, it depends on your ad agency that you're working with. And we've talked about BuzzCity. What we haven't explored, and I know other people have been very successful with, is social media and Facebook. But every agency that provides ad space will have a different way that you can filter your preferences on who you want to target, and they'll also have different requirements for what your creative will look like. And so just make sure you get those details. They're going to give you dimensions, and they're going to give you the size of the file, because obviously on mobile phones, the quicker things load, the better. With BuzzCity, two other strategies that we have not used is they have just pure text as an ad that you just tell them what you want the text to be. And if you can think on feature phones, that makes a lot of sense. And you can also do GIF animations. I just didn't spend the time making that, but that would be kind of cute if there was something dancing around. I guess that would catch people's eye a little bit more. So those are options that are available. And you have to think about the language. You want to make sure it's action-oriented. I know we can't read anything that's up here, but it says free Book of Mark, download now. Okay, so we're telling them what it is and what they can download. So you want to keep it very short and simple as much as possible, but tell them what they can do instantaneously, why they should be clicking on that ad. Now, before we ran the ads, and this sort of happens kind of with the whole process, we did some research, and why we love BuzzCity is they provide so much information that's not like other agencies. Other agencies, they want to do it all in-house, and they just promise the world, and you have to promise them your entire bank account, and we just found that they were much more flexible. This is for the person that wants to even just do a little bit to try things out, and then they can keep growing and growing. Great customer service, too. So on their site, they have something called an ad planner, and you can go target the country that you're interested in working with, and then they're going to give you a lot of statistics. So up here, they tell us what channels are available to market through. So they have like lifestyle and entertainment, okay? So any websites or games or apps that pertain to the lifestyle and entertainment segment, that's where your ad will appear. They also have utilities, community, general, portals. What all those are included, you can certainly ask them if you want specific details. For us, all we cared about was just testing to see which channels had the better results. And we didn't pay for impressions, we paid for clicks. So something you might even want to think more long-term is, let's say a particular channel doesn't get a lot of impressions, but it has a higher click rate and a higher download rate. Even if it takes, longer for us to run out of money with that one particular channel, it doesn't matter. In the long run, people are still getting what we're sending to them in a cost-effective manner. So you have to think the whole picture. It's not just impressions, it's also clicks, but it's not just clicks, it's also downloads. And then you want to compare that to your channel and the type of devices that you're targeting. And they provide that up here. Oh, I keep blacking it out. Handset model, handset operating system, handset maker. All right, so we're looking at operating system. This is Sudan. It's a Nokia S40. I'm finding that to be a very common device out there in South Africa. And you can see a majority is there, and then Android, and then Symbian as third. So that gives me a pretty good idea of what I'm doing is going to be compatible to those users. Now, they also have up here, which is also helpful, gender and age. Not on all of the nations do they have that data, but typically I'm finding or seeing about 70% male users when we're talking about developing nations, which makes a lot of sense. And they're also tending to be 20 to 30 years old. It's just, those are the folks that have the phones. So that's useful to know when you're preparing content that would be relevant, certainly. Okay, so when you're creating test campaigns, it's really important to have a way to collect your data. The agencies will always tell you how many impressions you have and how many clicks you've had. It is your responsibility after they land on the landing page to see what they're doing there. So this is an example of a heat map that we use through Crazy Egg. There's lots of heat maps and tools out there that do similar ones. Crazy Egg was the latest one I've been using here. And I don't know if you can see really well those little dots, but those are, this is a overlay on the actual landing page. So this is me signed into Crazy Egg. And most people are downloading the first chapter. That's what we're finding. And then they also go down there and get the last chapter. And those little colored dots then correspond to data up here, which they tell you about operating system used or referring country or referring, I guess, proxy or server where it came from.
Actual pin, is the actual where the finger touched it?
Yeah. So, that's a good point. Thank you, Mom. Up here, you see a lot of dots, and if that happens with your heat map, don't worry. Remember, these are mobile devices, and if they're on smartphones, you know how we tap and, move around. So it's good to know where all the tapping is, because sometimes people are a little misled if it isn't clear what they're supposed to be doing. They're tapping on the wrong thing, and they don't understand what's happening, and you want to go back and fix that. And then down here is just an example of the spinning report that we get from BuzzCity. They have the dates and the exposure and the clicks and all this information. So I take data from here, Google Analytics, and here, and spreadsheet, and then it gets all kind of crazy. But it helps me get a general idea of how much we're really spending per download is what we're looking for. Because if we're getting 20 clicks and 3 downloads, that's not as good as 20 clicks and 10 downloads. But we're seeing approximately 20% of the people who come on the landing page take further action to do something. These are not unusual numbers. There is no standard that I know of for this. I've got other marketing statistics for a lot of other things, but not for this. So we just have to see what happens with each country. So Google Analytics, great way to help maintain and monitor campaigns. We have not used it fully, I think, to the extent that it can be used. For example, the data that we have not been collecting is differentiating between downloads and streaming. All we can do is just test the click. I've been using Bitly, actually, lately to do that as a tool. But that's some data that I want to ultimately work towards, because the more we know what people are doing, the better we can deliver, and then the more we can get out of our actions and what we're doing. So that's where we're striving towards. And if you are interested in learning more how to do this, like we'll do live demonstrations and answer questions and things like that, right here at bit.ly/mobile evangelism, you'll be taken directly to this landing page where you can sign up, and we'll notify you when we've got a webinar scheduled. I just want to see how much interest there is first, and then we'll work out a date that makes sense for everyone. And we'll do it multiple times, whatever's needed. We'll do that. So I think that's all we have, and this is a good time for Q&A, actually, because we have about 5 minutes, couple minutes left.
I did want to say, we had a Jill up here concerning Chad, and there's no internet, and there isn't where she is. But with this particular ad agency, the reach into Chad, which is probably the nation has maybe 5 million in population, this ad agency has 360,000 phones that they know of in Chad, and they did 10 million impressions in the nation of Chad last month. So if I ran a campaign in Chad that was like the Benin campaign, which is just a little further over in Africa on that same plane, a country also of 5 million and even less mobile devices online, I could expect for $5 or $5 a day to have maybe at 10 cents a click. That would be, do the math, at $10 a day, 100 downloads of something. It's indicative of that with our stats here. That would be an option to reach into places. I'm just saying, let's think, yes, we can get into these countries. We may not reach everybody, but billions are there across the earth.
Okay, so I think we have a minute. Questions? I'm sorry, I wasn't using my mic.
I just wondered if you could repeat that URL again, the bit.ly.
Oh, sure. bit.ly/mobile evangelism.
B-I-T-L-Y?
bit.ly.
I tried another custom shortcode. They're like, sorry, it's already taken. I was like, man, these Bitly shortcodes aren't going to last long. That's the only question? Anybody else? Yes, sir. Don't say it yet.
Can you briefly explain the difference you kept using the term impressions.
Yeah.
Explain the term impressions for me.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, because that's important if you don't understand. So impressions has to do with how many times your ad is seen. And in the example here, I can't really read it from here, but like we had like thousands of impressions with only like maybe 200 or 300 clicks, which is all normal kind of stuff. Does that answer, does that work? Good. All right. Well, come chat with us. If you'd like to learn more, please sign up for the webinar.
What we have said is pretty novel, and you would like to review exactly what the whole concept is. What I've said here in general, and my daughter Marguerite, we have that on 2 pages back there, and you can come back and just get the 2-page exactly of what we presented here, and you know, tuck it in your the back of your suitcase, and maybe sometime when you're home and something comes up and you said, oh yeah, I don't know what they said, I don't remember who they, you can pull out those 2 pages and it will completely encompass everything that we said right here for a later reference if you should need it. On our website, Bible Transmission, absolutely. I didn't understand. Okay. That. Marguerite.
Okay, I don't know what a heat map is, and I wasn't quite catching what the name of the organization, the Crazy Egg or something that you're using.
Okay, sure. So the heat map we used is called crazyegg.com. It's free for 30 days and then minimum $10 a month for monitoring 10 different pages. You could say landing pages. And what they'll do is they'll take a snapshot of that page and then put it in they'll in their system, and then they'll record the activities of people that visit that page. And so they'll offer not just information about where people clicked by those little confetti-looking things, but they'll also do something called a scroll heat map, and you can see where people are scrolling on your page and see where do you get the most views and where do people tend not to look, or the fewest number. And that's important because you've got to make sure the most important things are visible where most people are seeing them. So the design, the heat map is, they'll also record activity of individuals that visit, and that's also helpful too.
Marguerite, we have a question from one of our remote participants. Frank asks, can it be easy to have the same platform, i.e. web access, in remote places, or can it work well with SMS platforms in countries? And does it need to, or do you need to subscribe first to the telecommunication companies?
Okay, so the individuals that would be able to access something like this, they would need to have some sort of access to data on their phone. SMS, yeah, I'm not familiar enough with that to really speak to it, but I don't think so. Because that's referring to a texting way of doing stuff, which I think is fascinating and maybe a whole nother area to explore. But this would have to be a person with a phone, with browser access, with data, with a data plan, not necessarily, because over there they do cards and they do Wi-Fi at cafes. So they don't have it all the time, but they have it incrementally. And that's when we can get it in there. Good question.
When Marguerite sent me a slide of this page of what we did in the Benin campaign several months ago, I noticed the websites that were aggregated where this banner ad played, and it was gaming and adult websites, and that's where we were getting our downloads from. And it was so exciting to have that kind of statistic, to know exactly the website where the banner ad was showing. We didn't get that with the Google stats or probably with Bitly, but this particular fascinating bit of information has actually been advantageous for us to raise support for mobile outreach in this manner from churches, and because they want to go as Jesus went, where the sinners lived, and to reach them in these places may be a blessing. Thank you.
Slightly technical question. You mentioned at the beginning that you started with WordPress and kind of PHP landing pages and then moved to HTML. Was that purely just to make them much more lightweight and faster to download and more compatible with mobiles, or was there something else behind that you discovered as you did it?
It was to compatibility, particularly with feature phones. So with BuzzCity, this is really awesome. They let you target specific devices. And so if we wanted to do a more sophisticated site and then just do smartphones, that's totally doable. We try to keep everything as simple as possible so more people can access the page. But this brings up another point, too. You have to sometimes do a little internet search yourself and do some research. Like, we were targeting those that speak Hindi in India, but there's many, many languages in India, and I know that a majority of people in New Delhi spoke Hindi, so I researched what were the top carriers in New Delhi, and then I just targeted those carriers because I couldn't target geographically through BuzzCity. So sometimes you have to do workarounds like that, and that's why it's a little research. It wasn't hard. I mean, it took me like 10 minutes, so if you just, I don't know, maybe it's because I do this stuff. That could be it too. But okay, that was a good question. There's another one back there.
Thank you. So I've never clicked on a banner ad in my life because I feel like I've been trained to be suspicious of them. And I wondered if you could say anything about how to make these ads not look like something cheesy, or just, how to make them look appealing and trustworthy.
That is a good question. And I'm sure it's very cultural based, opinions of advertising, because I hate it too. Especially when you do the retargeting, which if you ever clicked on something and you see it for the next 5 days, like, I don't want an office chair. I don't even know why I clicked on that, I don't think things are happening quite like that to them. It's all still very brand new. But I was told by BuzzCity that our creative should be diverse, because apparently some of the platforms that hold our ad space, they are sometimes particular about how it looks. I guess if they, how it matches their website or their app or something like that. That's something else that could be tested too, honestly. I mean, there's so many things that you can change within your campaign to see if you get more results. I mean, maybe the call to action that we have could be changed on that ad, and that would result in more clicks. So everything's wide open. The only way you can know for sure is you just have to do testing and comparing.
I think that in these developing regions, they're not as particular. They're hungry for content, whereas Westernized, we're particular with our clicks, and we know that we're going to be seeing an ad and some follow-up that we don't want. In developing nations, there's no money for advertising data or any item at all. So this is a blessing for us. This allows us to get in sort of on their phones with a clean slate. And they're kind of happy to see us come relatively speaking.
In March, we ran a ad campaign too using a VPN, because the country that we're focusing on, the government monitors and blocks websites and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So we actually used Anchor Free or Hotspot Shield, same company, purchased 10% of their ads. And one of the things we did is we ran different banners to try to test. This was the first time we did this. We didn't know if it was going to work, what kind of success, if we'd have one. Our product was just the Bible download. Today only, 24-hour campaign. Click here for free Bible. So we didn't know if we'd get one Bible click or 1,000. We had no idea. Anyways, we ended up getting about 6.5% of the viewers out of 400,000. And this was only specific to our country. They limited it only to that country, not global. 400,000 viewers. We got 6.5% of the people actually clicked on the ad. Now, then the landing page was, again, very simple. Picture, one icon, click here for Bible download. That dropped, and in the download campaign, we didn't see the 6%. But we still, there's discrepancy between the Hotspots analytics and Google's analytics between 1,700 downloads and 3,000 downloads. But again, so we're going to test this, but I'm just saying for restricted access countries, a VPN advertisement might be something you look at. So we looked at then paying roughly 19 cents an ad, which I don't know. I I'm not following completely. I think you guys are doing 1 cent. Is that or click through?
Yeah, on BuzzCity, they 1 to 2 cents a click.
Okay, so our clicks ended up being about 19 cents. But there again, it was a restricted access country, and I don't know. I was told that that's a pretty good download for what we're doing. So
Yeah,
just
I think
giving
so.
another idea of using VPNs or something.
I think I appreciate it. I think that's good. And something to also keep in mind is everything's up for grabs. You know, the number percentages on any of the activity and the cost, it varies per country, and you kind of have to decide maybe in your mind what goal you want to achieve. Like for us, we're saying we'd love to see downloads between 10 and 20 cents each. But we find that sometimes they're about 35 cents, or in other places 7. So, you know, it's all about the value and the heart that you have for the people that you're sending the ads to.
BuzzCity covers these sensitive nations at cheap rates. It might be worthwhile to see if that would work for you, this 1 to 2 cents per click. All of those nations are online now, and the ad might effectively go. BuzzCity would certainly advise you, and you can go in their planner, and you can see how many millions of impressions were delivered to each one of those countries in the Middle East, and try it. It may be if more cost effective and do the same job for you. Great. Praise the Lord. That would be a blessing.
Just, sorry, back down here. Just a very quick question then. Does BuzzCity allow for A/B testing, so you could run 2 different visual campaigns side by side?
Yes.
And see that?
Well, the only trick with that is that if you run, it's all how you pull your data, and this is an excellent question. So if you're running the A/B campaign to the same landing page, it's going to be hard to differentiate the download information. If you have 2 landing pages, which makes sense, it's easy to duplicate, you could run them simultaneously. Or you could just, if you just want to stick with the 1 page, you'd have to do 1 campaign and then do a second one afterwards with the variation of what you're testing.
Okay, great.